Hello team, welcome to another ATP Geopolitics video with myself, Jonathan MSP. It's the Ukraine War News Update, second part thereof for the 1st of July 2025 military aid video, where we're going to talk about what Ukraine has received and what Russia is doing about getting military equipment. Ukraine has received the 9th tranche from the International Monetary Fund, $500 million from the IMF to cover priority budgetary needs, according to Prime Minister Shmihal. This is the result of the 8th review of the EFF program. So far, the fund has already allocated $10.6 billion to Ukraine. That will no doubt be coming with strings attached. That will be loans to Ukraine that I'm sure they have to pay back at some point. So, be wary that it's not all free money and whatnot. Okay, Australia, as I mentioned the other day, announced at the NATO summit this week that they will be deploying, or last week, a Boeing E-7 Wedgetail airborne early warning and control aircraft to Poland, quote, to support Ukraine in its struggle and defiance against Russia, according to the Australian Deputy Prime Minister. Now, I thought there was already an Australian Wedgetail out there, unless that had returned home after doing an amount of time. It could be a second one that's out there, or could be replacing some other provision. But yeah, if anyone knows whether there are two Wedgetails, Australian ones out there, that would be useful. Now, alongside of this, we also hear that Australia is to deploy 100 soldiers, this is the Daily Mail saying, 100 soldiers to help Ukraine in its bloody war against aggression. Now, they'll deploy them. We need to be a bit careful about what that means. Defence Minister Richard Marles, that's actually Defence Minister, not Deputy Prime Minister, unless he might be both, I don't know, announced the contributions at the North Atlantic Treaty Organisation Leaders Summit in Netherlands on Wednesday. At the request of NATO and Poland, Australia will deploy a Royal Australian Air Force E-7A Wedgetail aircraft in August, along with 100 Australian Defence Force personnel. Part of Operation Kudu, the deployment is designed to protect an international gateway for humanitarian and military assistance into Ukraine and will not be direct combat roles. So that would be a number of troops out in Europe to help the logistics, I presume. It's interesting that I think, was it Sweden or was it Norway is providing air cover for the logistics as well. So I think they're providing, and actually it's not Gripens, it's F-35s to support this sort of provision of military aid into Ukraine. Now, just a fact check here, factually. .co says summary of the results. So the analysis confirms that Australia is indeed deploying up to 100 troops to support Ukraine, but with important clarifications about their role. All sources consistently report that it is legitimate military deployment to support Ukraine's war effort against Russia. But the original statement contains a significant omission regarding the nature of the deployment. While the statement suggests Australian troops will directly help defeat Russia, the analyses reveal that these personnel are not being deployed for direct combat roles, but to protect an international gateway for humanitarian and military assistance into Ukraine. So there you go, just to make sure that you don't get a sense that those soldiers are being sent into Ukraine. Now, when Trump was asked recently whether he would consider sending Patriot missiles to Ukraine, he responded, I may. But of course, I may also includes the probability, the fairly high probability that he won't. Ukrainian weapons account for more than 40% of arms used in defense against Russia, says Zelensky. He's mentioned similar numbers before. The government and domestic businesses now provide over 40% of the weapons used to defend Ukraine's independence. I've said before that that's a problematic statement, no matter what the percentage is, because what do you mean by 40% of the weapons? So is it done in value? Is it done in the number of weapons? What about, if you're getting 2 million small arms pieces of ammunition from, I don't know, Bulgaria, and then you're making 10 infantry mobility vehicles. The 10 mobility vehicles as a percentage of 2 million and 10, it's very small. So the percentage of weapons you're getting, almost all of your weapons you're getting from Bulgaria, right? But actually most of them are just single bullets. So do you get what I'm saying? I always say this when I hear it's X percentage of arms used in defense against Russia come from Ukraine. Okay, well, we need to be a bit more careful and understand how you're calculating that. Ukraine's cabinet has approved the launch of DOT Chain Defense, a digital weapons marketplace. Military units will directly order drones, electronic warfare tools, and other gear with full supply transparency. Rollout starts in July, beginning with FPV drones. So I thought this was already in existence. I don't know, maybe there are different iterations of this. You've got the Brave One thing. This is a DOT Chain Defense. So it's a digital weapons marketplace. So this looks like an Amazon or eBay for weapons. So anyway, we'll see what that entails as we get more news on it. German drone manufacturer Quantum Systems will launch localized production of Twister drones in Ukraine starting July 2025. These look like ones that have a vertical takeoff. The first units will be sent directly to the armed forces of Ukraine for testing. Now, this is a German manufacturer doing localized production of drones inside Ukraine. We've had certain co-productions take Ukrainian designs and manufacturing them outside of Ukraine, such as in Denmark. So this is an outside design being made in Ukraine. In fact, this is happening as well with potentially with the Renault, the French car manufacturer. So Presidents Macron and Zelensky discussed the possibility of producing Renault UAVs in Ukraine during their meeting at the NATO summit in Hague, according to French Foreign Minister Jean-Noël Barrot. Good news there. Now, Ukraine approves a new... So all of this is either co-productions inside Ukraine or Ukraine producing their own stuff here. So that's the rest of what we're going to be talking about. Ukraine produces new Murakha ground robot for combat use. The Murakha, or ANT, is a tracked robot platform designed to support frontline units working under challenging conditions, the Defense Ministry said. So that's good news. We have a video of specialised counter-drone rounds developed by Brave One for assault rifles. So these are special rounds that you would use to shoot down a drone. You can see from this video that's happening. Let's go to the Kyiv Independent article about this. So Ukraine developing new anti-drone ammunition to counter Russian aerial attacks. According to Brave One, the ammunition appears similar to standard rounds used in automatic rifles, but features a specially designed warhead that increases the likelihood of shooting down FPV drones or commercial quadcopters such as DJI Mavics before they strike. These types of... so, just trying to see... Yeah, the quote, these rounds that significantly improve the chances of hitting a moving target are a new development for Brave One. Our common goal is to ensure that every infantryman has a magazine of such ammunition and can equip his rifle with it in case of an air threat. In other words, you need to have it on you and to load your rifle quickly. But it doesn't actually say how they work. Interestingly, and that's what I would like to know. Maybe they don't want the Russians to find out about this. So we've got some new rounds and they help to increase the likelihood of shooting down an FPV drone, but not going to tell you how we do it. The rounds look fairly similar to normal rounds. Here he is loading them. They obviously do something. I don't know whether they spread out and release some kind of, I don't know, a bit like a shotgun, or whether they have some kind of proximity. No, you wouldn't get that with a. I don't know. Anyway, it is some development they have made for two small arms munitions to allow them to shoot down drones more easily. Now, interceptor drones. Some interceptors, according to Ivan Fedorov, who is in charge of, what's his title? He's basically innovation. Some interceptors have made a breakthrough. If these products are scaled up, the situation with Shaheds may change radically. Over the next 3 months, we will feel whether it works or not. Zelensky said that the 2 out of the 4 interceptor drone manufacturers in Ukraine are doing a really good job. Obviously, some are better than others. They are definitely using more and more interceptor drones. This is, I think, the future at the moment of taking down things like Shahed drones and reconnaissance drones. Seeing more and more footage of this taking place. Now, Daily Telegraph reports on the production of the first full-body Kevlar suit designed to stop drone shrapnel. Its blast-resistant boots could be next. Okay, let's learn about this. So the Telegraph: can Ukraine's new Kevlar suit protect soldiers from drones? Boots may be next. A new armoured combat suit developed by Ukraine's major Ole Shriayev is designed to protect soldiers from the growing threat of drone-dropped explosives and shrapnel. The lightweight overalls made from Kevlar and other impact-absorbing materials offer full body coverage and reinforced protection in key areas. According to the Telegraph, the move to integrate armour into clothing reflects the static nature of the war in Ukraine. Troops often remain in fixed locations for extended periods where drone and artillery attacks pose a far greater risk than small arms fire. The idea of these armoured overalls was my initiative and is something that hasn't existed before, said Shriayev. Recently awarded the title Hero of Ukraine, the country's highest honour. So the suit uses Kevlar, a heat-resistant synthetic fibre originally developed to replace steel in racing tyres, along with other materials that can absorb explosive impact. While Kevlar is less effective than ceramic plates against bullets, it's much lighter and offers strong protection against shrapnel, now the main battlefield threat. Quote, when a drone drops a grenade or explosive device, there is shrapnel and ballistic powder flying around, which have different starting velocities and weight, he said. So you can get a sense of what this suit can do. Velocity of shrapnel that each area can absorb. So you get the shoulder and upper arms and lower legs. And indeed, so that's on the front, and then your backside on the back. So I don't know why the backside is more important than your front side. That has the greatest, and your back of the arms actually, greatest protection, and then you're down to weakest protection around the neck and kind of, your legs at the back and the back of your upper arm. So it's a weird combination, but anyway. They've obviously worked out what are the areas that are most susceptible to blast that give you the most injuries, and they've adapted accordingly. So they're also exploring the development of blast-resistant insoles for military boots to guard against foot injuries from ground-level explosions. Interesting. We've seen these kind of boots. I don't know what you would call them, almost like height extenders that you can put on, and they're like an open frame that you attach to the underside of your boot, and basically that dissipates anti-personnel mines when you step on them, the impact from them or the energy from them, and that they've been used previously. So yeah, tech can't replace infantry, so how do we make infantry more survivable is the question. Noel Report says in Ukraine a specialised armour system is now being produced for the Patriot air defence system. So this is just extra armour for the air defence for the Patriot, which is very useful. The control station, radar comparator and generator are now protected by 3 tons of armour plates. Now, when you don't really need to move this stuff around, at least not very often, then you can armour it up. The other option is shoot and scoop more often, but that comes really difficult because these things take up quite a lot of space and they're not so easy to move. But the upgrade is being handled by Ukraine's largest metallurgical company. So good news there for the Patriot systems. Ukraine air and missile defense systems will be integrated into the high-tech infrastructure of the Norwegian-American NASAMS complex. Ukrainian defense industry JSC said it will become a breakthrough in the country's air defense capabilities. So let's look a little bit more at the detail here. So we know that they use the NASAMS and use them pretty effectively, the American-Norwegian co-production. Which can destroy drones, aircraft, helicopters, cruise missiles, and ballistic missiles at medium-low altitudes in all weather conditions. Interesting about the ballistic missiles there. Its range can reach up to 100 kilometers and altitude ceiling at 21 kilometers. Ukrainian air and missile defense systems will be integrated into the infrastructure of the NASAMS complex. The agreement between the companies includes integrating Ukraine's short and medium-range air defense systems into the NASAMS infrastructure. In particular, parties agreed that Ukrainian systems will operate in conjunction with Norwegian command and control modules. What this will mean is something like an old book, maybe, or Strela 10, something like that. maybe even some of the short-range systems like the Stormer for the UK, I don't know, but certainly other systems can be incorporated into the NASAMS complex, where you're likely to have a much better radar system and control post. And if you can have your NASAMS launchers, but also connected to that other launchers as well, it means you can just plug and play, have greater flexibility to do your air defense. Right. So thank you for Otto Boren, who's sent this on to me. But unfortunately, I can't read the most important part of this article. It is one by Wes O'Donnell. I think he has his own YouTube channel. This is fascinating, but we don't get to see exactly what it is that they have adapted to the old Soviet planes. But Swedish tech, Soviet airframes inside Saab's plans to upgrade Ukraine's old fighters. Everyone loves a shiny jet, says Wes O'Donnell, but the real strategic value lies in what Ukraine already has. So rather than get new Gripens or F-16s, like what is it that tech companies can do to upgrade the already existing older Soviet era airframes? So on May the 23rd, 2025, Ukraine's Deputy Minister of Defense of Aviation Development, Alexander Kozenko, sat down with Swedish delegation led by Saab's Director for Ukraine Affairs, Thomas Linden. The mission: find out how to make legacy Ukrainian airframes fly like they were built this century, specifically by integrating Swedish-made avionics, electronic warfare systems, and radar. So although we don't know the details of this because it is a Substack, I think, behind a paywall, we only get the free bit at the beginning. It looks like Saab have been upgrading the probably MiGs and maybe Su-24s, Su-25s, Su-27s with radar and electronic warfare systems and avionics. This isn't a paper exercise. Ukraine has already pulled off some Frankenstein-grade innovation under fire, like adapting AGM-88 HARM missiles to MiG-29s using iPads as fire control solutions, or slapping Storm Shadows to Su-24s using NATO pylon adapters. Saab's upgrades would professionalize this kind of workaround into hardened, survivable combat systems. The concept is simple but impactful. Both Saab's electronic warfare tools, radar tech, and threat countermeasures onto Ukrainian Su and MiG jets make them deadly and harder to kill. Think of it less like a new lease of life, more like dragging Cold War jets into the drone-saturated battle space of 2025. As Kozenko puts it, quote, Ukraine gains combat capability, Sweden gains battlefield data. It's a fair trade, assuming the upgrades make it past the discussion table and onto the flight line. So maybe still in the early stages here. Let me put this on the record. Saab might be the single best, most high-tech defence contractor in Europe, and not enough people are talking about it, says Wes O'Donnell. While some firms in Europe are still coasting on Cold War legacies and decades-long procurement delays, Saab is out there quietly punching above its weight in every domain: air, sea, land, and now space and cyber. And unlike some of its bigger rivals, it doesn't need multinational committees to innovate. It just builds systems that work and then iterates faster than most of NATO can hold a meeting. Need receipts? Well, start with the Gripen. It's not just a budget Eurofighter, as I've heard some people call it. It's a modular, multi-role, combat-proven fighter designed and networked warfare baked in from the start. With networked warfare baked in from the start. It's built to launch from roadways, survive in denied environments, and run full-spectrum electronic warfare ops without costing $100 million a unit. It's the F-35 for countries who like results more than Lockheed's underwhelming stock dividends. Or take the Giraffe radar series, mobile, rapidly deployable 3D radar systems that can detect cruise missiles, helicopters and drones with astonishing reliability. Ukraine's air defense would be thrilled to have a few of these to plug sensor gaps in the layered network. But where Saab really flexes is in the non-sexy, war-winning tech, the stuff that doesn't trend on Twitter but saves lives every night. Case in point, Saab's Barracuda multispectral camouflage system. This isn't camo netting, it's thermal suppression tech that breaks up visual, IR, radar, and even near UV signatures. It's already in use on vehicles and static positions in multiple NATO countries, and yes, some have reportedly made it to Ukraine. In a war where visibility equals vulnerability, Barracuda isn't an accessory, it's body armour for everything from HIMARS launchers to forward operating bases. But that's where the article ends, and I'd love to see what they are planning on doing exactly to these older Ukrainian airframes, or indeed Soviet airframes. Now, Jeff 2146 is updating his list with some missed stuff back from 2022 and 2023. So this isn't news. This isn't like particularly interesting for like what we're trying to understand about what's going into Ukraine right now. But what it reminds us of, it's just this really sore reminder that the US did used to give quite a lot of kit to the Ukrainians. So he's just adding as an afterthought some stuff that he hadn't already put on his list. 167 M777 towed howitzers, 88 M119 towed howitzers, 18 M109A6 self-propelled guns, 4 M142 HIMARS, 12 M1064 self-propelled mortars, 400 M113s, APCs, 4 M7 Bradley fire support team vehicles, 105 M2A2 Bradleys, a striker, 103 strikers, 28 other strikers, 40 other strikers, like engineering ones, 8 reconnaissance strikers, 236 M11117 armored security vehicles, and so on and so forth. You get the point. It's like, wow, these guys gave loads of kit previously. How sad it is that the US has refused to give any more meaningful kit. Although, worth noting that Jason from JMT Politico on my threads, he has some connections in Ukraine and was saying that he still thinks that there is aid flying into Ukraine from the US at levels that would go above what the US are still giving in terms of contracted aid from before Trump took control in the Biden administration time period. I don't know, I can't verify what he says, and it is, pinch of salt and all that. But I hope that the US is still providing Ukraine with weaponry. Okay, Putin has announced a cut in spending due to economic problems in Russia, according to the Telegraph. Remember, I've reported on this, but according to him, the reduction in defense spending will take place either next year or within 3 years. This comes after Russian officials warned of a possible recession. The Russian Federation is facing inflation, a shortage of workers, up to 2.6 million, rising debts in the public sector, and the rise of bankruptcies. The reintegration of soldiers has also become a problem. About 140,000 of them are already unemployed. Wow. Now, according to ISW, Russia plans to increase aircraft production, but sanctions, a shortage of parts, and a lack of labour are slowing the process. Russians have expanded at least 5 buildings at the Kazan aviation plant by 19,000 square metres, where they produce and modernise two 160Ms, two 160M2s and two 22M3 aircraft, so they're strategic bombers, and helicopters. By the end of 2025, Russia plans to produce 4 214s there, 7 by 2026, 17 by 2027, and 28 starting annually in 2028. Around $1.2 billion is expected to be spent on this. However, in 2024, the plant delivered only two 160M2s and two 160Ms. So 4 were kicked out of the plant in 2024, and they're planning on really ramping up production there. That is a slight concern. There's been talk that there is satellite imagery to support the idea that the Kazan plant is getting expanded. Russia is expanding its Kazan aircraft plant, says War Translated, the only facility capable of replacing lost strategic bombers. Yle, the Finnish media outlet, reports several new buildings have appeared with 1 billion euros invested. Completion is expected by the end of 2025. So satellite imagery suggests that Kazan airbase is being upgraded, and there are new buildings there being built fairly consistently. Okay, staying on Russia, a white Shahed of Iranian production, which has artificial intelligence, a camera, and a feedback channel for the operator, was shot down in Sumy region. Now, there are these claims about the white Shahed and why it's different and it's more capable. It apparently has the AI targeting on board, so something to do with, and someone was talking about it in the thread the other day, there's something to do with maybe radar reflection or electronic warfare resistance with that kind of paint as opposed to the black paint. So the black paint will protect you if you're flying in the night at night. Black on a black sky, it's going to be difficult to see compared to white. but there must be some definite advantage of this being in white. Of course, if you're going to use it in the daytime, then you want white more than black against the daytime sky. Yeah, okay, blue sky, not as useful, but if there are clouds in the sky, it becomes useful. So Russians are testing a new attack drone based on Automat Kalashnikov, the Automat Kalashnikov platform. So, yes. So is that a vertical takeoff drone? Yes, it is. It looks like interesting. That's a plane going backwards, really. But so that is the new drone that the Russians have designed. And I think there's evidently quite a lot of need for vertical takeoff. So you don't have to have some complex launch platform, some catapult that sends it off, or runway. You can take this drone in the back of a car, get it out, set it up on the ground, and then off you go. So that could be an advantageous design feature. The newest Russian bomb, the Khrom 2, was shot down near Dnipro the other day. I talked to you about that. This is the hybrid bomb that's kind of half guided glide bomb, half sort of missile. It was used recently, and it has been claimed to have been used a number of times throughout the war. I've reported on that previously, but anyway, that was used this week. And then Forbes is reporting that Russian Shahed drones now have bulletproof engines and a bag of dirty tricks. Ukraine used to shoot them down. Now they fly in pairs, drop bombs on the way, and keep coming. So drones, the Russians are adapting in the drone domain. Let's get a bit more information here. So here it says, Russia's recent drone modifications have made the Shahed a tougher adversary. As Forbes defense correspondent Vikram Mittal reports, engine compartments are now armoured and fuel tanks have been removed from the wings into the drone's core, reducing the likelihood of a single hit disabling the aircraft. Some drones now deploy ammunitions mid-flight, extending their damage radius and lowering the need for precise targeting. So they're ending up dropping bombs as well as being a bomb themselves. One Ukrainian commander quoted on social media said, "You don't even have to hear them fall, and then 20 minutes. You don't even hear them fall, and then 20 minutes after the flight, an explosion occurs." So beyond hardware, Russia has changed how Shaheds are used. Launching drones in dual altitude pairs, one low, one high, allows the lower drone to mask the other from radar detection, improving strike success. So you have a drone that's almost like sacrificial flying up high. That's what attracts the radar attention. And then you have ones flying below it, so that from above it's kind of like, okay, we've only got one thing here, one drone, and that may be a way of getting the drones through. Meanwhile, Russia is pairing Shaheds with Lancet drones, which attack as loitering munitions, targeting Ukraine's counter-drone teams. By knocking out interceptors first, Shaheds are more likely to reach their destination. So the Russians are now realizing that these interceptor teams are high value and are trying to take out the interceptor teams themselves. Okay. So there's a shift in technology and tactics with some of these Shaheds even dropping munitions themselves. Okay, so where are we at? Just looking here. In response, Ukrainian forces are upgrading radar systems to detect paired drones more effectively. Field units may also receive heavier caliber rifles and vehicle armour to withstand Lancet strikes. And then, of course, targeting drone production facility like they did last night in Izhevsk, among, no doubt, other places that they're trying to get at the moment. In fact, here we go. That's a good segue here. So Jay in Kyiv says over 9,000 Shahed drones have been built at this plant in Russia's city of Izhevsk. And it's been violently detonating all day. So not only was it struck last night, but it's continued to cook off today. That's really good news. Even a 1,300 kilometer distance from Ukraine is no longer safe for Russia's rapidly shrinking defense capacity. And there you see it. That's the place that's on fire. Russia's future, says General Ben Hodges. No place is safe. Ukraine's strategy of denial, like Israel, continue to strike Russian defense industry, air bases, oil and gas infrastructure. Senior Russian officers will spend the rest of their life looking over their shoulder and checking under their cars. And there you have it. That's all I have for today. Let's hope that this strike on the Russians here at Izhevsk will result in Russians losing access to a number of Shahed drones due to them being blown up and turned to dust. And that's it from me. Please remember to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. I'm trying to get to the big 100k because my son would like to get his hands on one of those plaques. Personally, I just think he needs to eat more sweets. That'll give him enough plaque. Hey, that's a dentist. That's a teeth joke. Thank you. I'm here all day. Anyway, yeah, please subscribe. That'd be amazing. Like and share and do all that YouTubey stuff. And don't forget, there's Car for Ukraine, our campaign that we are almost over the line with. And I'd absolutely love some support there. Let's go and actually type the correct thing in, Car for Ukraine. If you go to atpgeo.com/donate, you'll get to here. Summer Sunshine, ATP Geopolitics. We're 9,900. We're basically 1,000 euros away from a successful campaign here with Car for Ukraine. There are a couple of new patches that they are offering, as well as other bits and pieces. Just go to atpgeo.com/donate. And we've had a couple of further ones today. David Cross, Julian Roster, total legend. Sarah Goyce, really appreciate that. William Ingham, wow, thank you. Greetings, your dedication is truly inspiring. Keep going. It's a pleasure to support such a dedication. Blessings to you and Ukraine. Bill from Bermuda. Oh, it's Bill from Bermuda. Thank you, my good man. So Julian Roster, as ever, so generous as well. And David Cross. And Ha Van Schrai. Svai, I don't know if I pronounced that correctly, but anyway, thank you, and to all those people whose names aren't up there, and also Alex Timming. So appreciate that. Cheers, guys. As I've done a wall for you. Thank you to you wonderful people. Toodle pips.